breadth of cooperation that we have had since the beginning of this war. A level of cooperation that is truly unprecedented in the history of the great alliance between our two nations. We see that support in your steadfast commitment to provide Israel with the tools we need to defend ourselves. We see that support in the clear message you've sent our enemies not to test our resolve, and in the 2 American carrier battle groups that you sent to the region to back up those words with action. But above all, Mr. President, the world sees that support in the moral clarity that you have demonstrated from the moment Israel was attacked. You've rightly drawn a clear line between the forces of civilization and the forces of barbarism. You describe what Hamas did as sheer evil. It is exactly that. Hamas murdered children in front of their parents, and parents in front of their children. They burnt people alive. They raped and murdered women. They beheaded soldiers. They searched for the secret hiding places where parents hid their children. And just imagine, Mr. President, the fear and the panic of those little children in their last moments as the monsters found out their hiding places. Hamas kidnapped women, children, elderly, Holocaust survivors. I know you share our outrage on this, and I know you share our determination to bring these people back. On October 7th, Hamas murdered 1,400 Israelis, maybe more. This is in a country of fewer than 10 million people. This would be equivalent to over 50,000 Americans murdered in a single day. That's 29 11s. That is why October 7th is another day that will live in infamy. Mr. President, you rightly said that Hamas is worse than ISIS. The German Chancellor, who visited here yesterday, said that Hamas were the new Nazis. You're both right. And just as the civilized world united to defeat the Nazis and united to defeat ISIS, the civilized world must unite to defeat Hamas. I can assure you, Mr. President, Israel is united to defeat Hamas. And we will defeat Hamas and remove this terrible threat from our lives. The forces of civilization will prevail for our sake, for your sake, for peace and security in our region and in the world. Mr. President, for the people of Israel, there's only one thing better than having a true friend like you standing with Israel, and that is having you standing in Israel. Your visit here is the first visit of an American president in Israel at a time of war. It is deeply, deeply moving. It speaks to the depth of your personal commitment to Israel. It speaks to the depth of your personal commitment to the future of the Jewish people and the one and only Jewish state. So I know I speak for all the people of Israel when I say, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for standing with Israel today, tomorrow, and always.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much. Look, folks, I wanted to be here today for a simple reason. I wanted the people of Israel, the people of the world, to know where the United States stands. I've had my great Secretary of State here. He's been here for a lot. But I wanted to personally come and make that clear. Terrorist group Hamas has slaughtered, as has been pointed out, over 1,300 people. And it's not hyperbole to suggest slaughtered. And including 31 Americans as part of that. And they've taken scores of people hostage, including children. You said, imagine what those children hiding from Hamas were thinking. It's beyond my comprehension to be able to imagine what they're thinking. Beyond my comprehension. They're committed evils that and atrocities that make ISIS look somewhat more rational. You know, Americans are grieving with you. They really are. And Americans are worried. Americans are worried because we know this is not an easy field to navigate, what you have to do. But the fact is that Israel, as they respond to these attacks, it seems to me that have to continue to ensure that you have what you need to defend yourselves. And we're going to make sure that occurs, as you know. And we have to also bear in mind that Hamas does not represent all the Palestinian people. And it has brought them only suffering. You know, years ago, I asked the Secretary of State when he and I were working in the Senate to write something for me, and he said, he wrote a line that I think is appropriate. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it, I'll wait till later, taking too much time, but the point is this, that I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things. And it also means encouraging life-saving capacity to help the Palestinians who are innocent, caught in the middle of this. And well, at any rate, that's who we are. Not just me, but I mean, that's who the United States is. And it's just not the example of our power, it's the power of our example that's almost as important. The world's looking. Israel has a value set like the United States does and other democracies. And they're looking to see what we're going to do. So, Mr. Prime Minister, I'm very happy to be back in Israel with you. Thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to having a thorough discussion about where everybody goes from here. But thank you, and I want to say to the people of Israel, their courage, their commitment, their bravery is stunning. It's really stunning. I'm proud to be here.
Thank you.
Mr. This is the briefing, a joint briefing between U.S. President Joe Biden and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Remember, it all started with Benjamin Netanyahu thanking the U.S. President for its steadfast support, the American support that the world can see. He's also gone on to say that the support was very evident through the tools, the weapons that America sent Israel after the October 7th attack in Israel by Hamas militants. And he, in response to that, thank you, U.S. President Joe Biden has also spoken about how Hamas can be seen as akin to even worse than ISIS. And he also speaks about the the Gaza Al-Ali hospital attack, which has killed more than 500 people. And in a sense, also goes ahead and says that it does seem like it was a misfire by the other team. That's how Joe Biden has decided to put it. But he underlines this entire statement by signing off by saying that we are still looking at this entire matter. Let me take this across to my colleague Siddhant Mishra, who's now joining us on the broadcast. Siddhant, first of all, let's actually begin with this last statement by Joe Biden, where he speaks about the hospital attack in Gaza. He's sitting with the Israeli Prime Minister. He does speak about how it looks like it has been the handiwork of the other team, meaning Islamic Jihad operatives. That seems to be the word that Israel is also claiming. But then he sums it up with saying that we are still looking at the matter. How does one read this statement?
Well, this is a very, very significant visit of President Biden. And trust me, Greha, there were a lot of expectations with this visit, especially as he was also traveling to Jordan to meet the leaders from the Arab world. Now, this statement which you are talking about, Greha, is perhaps the most important one, where America is perhaps convinced with the evidence that Israel is pushing as far as the involvement of Islamic Jihad in the yesterday's rocket attack on hospital. He said that it's the work of the other group, and he also said that we are still looking into the matter. So, as a seasoned politician, Biden knows how to strike a balance. Since he is sitting with Benjamin Netanyahu, so he has given this message that they are on the same page. But then again, he has his own ways to find out, his own units to find out that who was behind it. So he said that we are still continue to look into the matter. So a very balanced statement there coming from President Biden, and also reaffirming faith on Israel and backing Israel the way America has been backing Israel in last 9 days. So nothing has changed, because there was some sort of there was pressure, Griha. I mean, look at the statements coming from the Arab world. There was a lot of pressure on America, perhaps to ask Israel to do ceasefire, to secure humanitarian corridor. In fact, Saudi Arabia has come out. Turkey has condemned the attack. WHO has condemned the attack. The other West Asian nations have condemned the attack on the hospital. So there was pressure on America, but Biden has played it in a very subtle manner, because so there is also a need right now, Greha, to keep Israel in good faith. Because if U.S. wants humanitarian corridor, if U.S. wants safe passage in Gaza, for that Israel has to agree. And given the whatever I'm getting to know from the policymakers in Israel, they are not okay with providing free passage on the name of humanitarian aid. So maybe Biden has said that it is the work of the other group, maybe to perhaps to give an upper hand to Israel in this war. But at the same time, American diplomacy is perhaps one of the finest in the world. We could expect by evening that there could be an announcement of an humanitarian corridor in Gaza, and that would be a victory for American diplomacy and also for an Arab world, because an Arab world can also tell their people that, look, we have got the gates open at the Rafah border by putting pressure on America. So that is how diplomacy works, and all the leaders understand it very well.
Absolutely, and that's a very important point that you're making, Siddhant. The fact that there will be closed-door meetings now, not open to the media. The one thing that the U.S. President Joe Biden has also said in that briefing, that Hamas is not akin to each and every Palestinian. They cannot be equated with the common Palestinian. He makes that subtle statement again over there, a point that has been repeated at least twice in our knowledge by the U.S. President. Do you think that, and the kind of response that has come in from the Arab world, especially with this bilateral with Jordan that has now stands cancelled between US and Jordan, that also adding to the pressure, do you think because of that the IDF had to come up with a reasoning do you think Israel is kind of on the back foot, especially ahead of US President Joe Biden's visit, now that this hospital attack also happened?
No, Greha. So yes. There were a lot of expectations that Israel would be on back foot, but given the narrative fight that they have entered into, and the kind of evidence, technical video proof that they are providing to the world community, and trying to convince them by showing video footage of the falling of the rocket, by telling that there was no Carter found at the site. If it had been a work of Israeli rocket, there would have been a Carter found. Then there are other things also said by Israel to support that the work of Palestine.
Absolutely true, Siddhant. But don't you think this reasoning, or in fact this fact check, needs to be done with or by a neutral territory, not by the person or not by the country that has been accused of perpetrating that very crime? If Israel is coming up with some sort of an evidence, of course it is not going to be looked at without a reasonable doubt, and which is what came out of the press conference also that was held by the IDF spokesperson. The first question that came to them was that, how do we trust you with the evidence that you are putting out?
You are absolutely right, Greha, and I would also like to add on what you said, that many those who know that the kind of missiles that Israel used, or perhaps Hamas used, they are in fact questioning that how can a a rocket from Islamic Jihad can cause damage to this level. So there is again a theory which is being put forth that it may be that some ammunitions were kept next to the hospital. So yes, I agree, and in fact, many believe that there should be a neutral investigation in this entire matter. Perhaps the truth should come out. But we both know, Greha, as we have been reporting on Russia-Ukraine conflict, we have seen many other conflicts going on. There is no neutral agency looking into the allegations made by the two warring nations or warring groups. There is no such neutral probe ever to take place. Even in Russia-Ukraine case also, there have been many cases where Russia has alleged that it is the work of Ukrainian groups, but nothing has happened. So, you know, that is how, when soldiers are fighting on ground, then there is also a narrative war which goes on, you know, and it's all about, diplomacy is all about give and take. So Biden has given Israel and has backed the narrative that they are making, that it is a work of Islamic Jihad, and in return of that, Biden can take assurance for the humanitarian corridor. I mean, that is how diplomacy works. I'm sure that there is going to be contradictory statements or perhaps some different theories coming from the other departments of the United States government in coming days, because that is how the United States work. If President says something, that is not pathar ki lakeer. You know, there are other versions, intelligence units which give their own reports. So that there will be a follow-up report. But right now, the priority for Biden is to secure humanitarian corridor. Because that is how he's going to take Arab world on the same page. That is how he's going to make them happy. Because Egypt is demanding same, Saudi Arabia is demanding same, UAE. I mean, look at UAE, Zeha. UAE has condemned the attacks on Hamas, but now UAE has also condemned what has happened to the hospital in the strongest world and asked for a ceasefire. So, you know, the ally of U.S. are demanding Biden to put pressure, since he is in Tel Aviv, and you know, it's right now perhaps one of the most difficult times for President Biden in his career as a president. You know, handling this situation in West Asia, because the focus of American policymakers is China, is Indo-Pacific. It's not West Asia. And if this becomes a regional conflict, then America is going to get engaged, which would again be a waste of resources. And that is what America understands very well. So the idea is to contain this war, to restrict this war between Israel and Hamas, and other players should not jump in. That is the core of the American diplomacy, which is
so
going
Siddhant,
on.
while U.S. President is here in Israel, and he's one of the first, remember, to be visiting Israel while this horrific conflict continues between Hamas and Israel, how practical do you think that ceasefire can be announced? How practically and easily can it be announced while Joe Biden is still in Israel, considering the conversations are going to continue between him and Mr. Netanyahu?
So a short while back, Greha, I was speaking to a Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson of the government of Israel, and they are very clear. They are not fighting civilians; they are fighting terrorists, and they're also clear that this attack has not been done by them. So there is no point of ceasefire. As far as the ground operation is concerned, that is something which will be discussed. In fact, I would like to take our viewers back to what Secretary Blinken said yesterday on the visit of President Biden. He said that Biden is going to sit down with Netanyahu and discuss the plans for the counteroffensive. He's also going to focus on the minimum casualty of civilians, and also going to look into the blueprint that Israel has prepared. Now, in fact, many believe that for the ground operations that Israel wants to start, they were waiting for President Biden to arrive once and look into the plans that they have right now. Now, there's no official confirmation to it, but it is an understanding that since America has been backing Israel, and even the MFA spokesperson also said that whatever we do in close coordination with our American counterparts. So it means that America is aware about each and everything. America is also aware that there is a possibility of a counteroffensive. You know, there is no statement that Mr. Biden has made as far as counteroffensive is concerned, but it would be interesting to see that what is going to be America's stand once Biden will leave Tel Aviv. Whether there is a green signal from America for the ground operation or not, how will Netanyahu how Netanyahu will convince them, maybe he can put forth a plan in which, that's why they are saying that they are asking people to evacuate northern Gaza, go to the southern part. We don't want Hamas to use them as a human shield. So those are some reasons that Israel is giving. But it's a complicated situation, and since Biden is in Tel Aviv, he's going to talk in favor of Israel. But I'm surely expecting more statements, versions,
Right.
theories coming from the other departments of the U.S. in India.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Siddhant. And the one word that's coming out of this press briefing, the joint one between U.S. President Joe Biden and the Israeli Prime Minister, Mr. Netanyahu, is that U.S. in fact goes on to put it on record that it does seem like that this hospital strike in Gaza was not done by Israel. However, that's an underlying point that's been made by Joe Biden. In the same statement, he goes on to also add that we are still looking at the entire matter. We will be investigating upon it further. Let's see what comes out of all of that. We're slipping into a very short break, coming right back with lots more.